The novel Perdido Street Station was nominated for the 2002 Nebula Award for Best Novel and Hugo Award for Best Novel. It won the British Fantasy Society's August Derleth Award in 2000, the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 2001, the Premio Ignotus Award in 2002, and the Kurt Laschwitz Award in 2003. It also won the Amazon.com Editor's Choice Award in Fantasy in 2001. Perdido Street Station was also the very worst novel I've read through to completion. I picked up Perdido Street Station because it was recommended to me as a Charles Dickens meets fantasy steampunk, which I thought was fascinating. I'm a fan of Charles Dickens, and I want to check out more steampunk novels, so I gave it a shot. And I can definitely see that connection. Charles Dickens has an amazing way with the English language that I haven't seen in any other author. And similarly, China Miéville has just an uncommonly good grasp of the English language, and apparently I don't, because I just use good to describe his use of the English language. But it's a book that prompted me to get a dictionary app on my phone because I wished I had been looking up words as I was reading through it. He uses a lot of words that I just don't know what they meant, and he's certainly a master of language, there's no doubt about that. The city that the entire novel takes place in is certainly comparable to a Dickensian London as well. There's a bleakness about it. There's an interesting cast of sort of lower class characters, and there's no doubt that there are a lot of parallels that could be drawn between Dickens's London and Miéville's New Crobuzon in Perdido Street Station. Speaking of the world of the novel, China creates a fascinating world that's an interesting mix of fantasy, sci-fi, steampunk, horror, all blended together with very unique creatures, a unique setting, and a world that's unlike anything I've encountered before in a novel. So his world building and the crafting of this setting and environment is really quite unique. Probably the best thing I could say about the story itself actually relates to one of its more horrific events. There's a scene where the characters are creating a machine-like apparatus, and to fuel this machine they actually need a living human body to essentially drain the life out of to activate the machine. And naturally, the characters themselves are experiencing a lot of doubts about whether or not they can go through with this awful procedure. And as a reader, I'm sitting there going, but don't you understand how important this is? The sacrifice of one person is going to create so much good for so many other people. And the fact that the novel could bring me to a point where I can wish for the destruction of a human in the story is fascinating to me. I think that's about all the good things I can say about the book, other than the author's very good looking. Seriously, Google China Miéville and Google Images. Dude spent some time in the gym. He's a good looking guy. But here's the thing. And I'm going to spoil this book because I don't want you to read it anyway, so I don't care if it gets spoiled. First of all, this is such a bleak story. It doesn't start off too terrible, but as it progresses, it quickly gets dark and depressing and increasingly bleak and horrible until we reach the absolutely awful ending of the book. And there's just this gradual, general decline of the overall mood of the story, I guess you'd say. It's not a fun read at all. I don't necessarily need a happy ending in every story I read, but part of the reason I read fantasy is as an escape to get my mind out of life and its various issues and problems and struggles. And so I do want a book that I'm going to feel happy with, not terribly depressed like I felt with Perdido Street Station. My second major issue was with the way the book ended. And this one has me baffled. The story establishes this main plot line of a character going to the main character for help in having wings created. And this is sort of the central storyline that we're introduced to. And then partway into that, a whole subplot comes into play with the moths and the horrific creatures that come into the world and have to be dealt with. And that all of a sudden takes over the main storyline. And it's almost as if the author was writing the book, realized, oh, I've written hundreds of pages on the side storyline. Now I have to address the main plot point I started with. And the way I'm going to do that is by saying, oh, and by the way, that other thing, nothing happens. I'm like, how can you conclude a book by saying, oh, yeah, nothing's going to happen with that thing that we started working towards in the first part of the book? That's astonishing to me. I went to Wikipedia when I was finished because supposedly this is the first book in a trilogy, and I thought there's no way I'm going to read any more of the trilogy. So I'm going to at least go to Wikipedia and figure out what happened with the rest of that plot point. And it turns out that the next book in this series has nothing to do with the characters of the first book. It's a whole new time frame, a whole new set of characters doing a whole new set of things. And I think the third book was the same as well. So the three books in this so-called trilogy aren't even connected by characters or storyline or narrative or whatever. So it is the least satisfying ending I've ever seen in a book. And I'm astonished at how that all happened. Not only do you not know how some of the main characters turn out at the end of it all, but there's no resolution of the main problem that the book started off to address. It ticked me off so much that I put the time into finishing this novel. It made me wonder if to win literary awards you just have to use a lot of big words, create a unique world, and throw it all together in a non-traditional, non-happy ending storyline. But no, don't read this book. Just, there's so much other stuff out there that's so much better. I can't even tell you how much this book still irritates me. So I'm going to stop talking about it and move on to better things. Hey, it's Josh here, just wanting to thank you for watching my video. If you want to support me, it would be great if you'd give me a quick like, a subscribe, and if you'd share this video with one other book lover in your life. Cheers. Talk about what I really hated about the book. Perdido Street Station was recommended to me as a... I picked up Perdido Street Station because it was recommended to me as a fan... What's the f*** is the city even called? Yeah. Hold on. Crappies on it. There's her. Oh, it's still recording. Until the... Oh wait, I was gonna... The escapism, to get my mind out of life, and it's... Because it starts off by presenting a particular issue with... What's his name now? Can't remember these characters.